Hello everyone, welcome to my kitchen. My name is Michael and today I'm going to be sharing with you my recipe for a pumpkin pound cake. This could not be any easier to make. We're going to start out with our bundt pan here, and this is a 10-cup bundt pan that I've got here. And what you want to do with that is you want to grease it and then put some flour in it, or you can use the spray and spray that. That'll definitely work as well. So I'm going to do that just as I get ready to put everything in. So I'm going to prepare this pan in just a minute, but we want to start out with our bundt pan and we want to spray that. Now let's get that oven preheated to 325 degrees Fahrenheit or 165 degrees Celsius. And while that's heating up, I've got a bowl here and I've got 2 sticks of butter, or that is 1 cup or 227 grams. And you want that room temperature, you want that to be softened so that that will blend together nicely with our sugar. So I'm just going to put that into this big bowl here and we're going to make sure we get all of that butter out of there. And with our butter now, I've got 2 cups of granulated sugar, or that's 400 grams, and we're just going to put that in on the top of it. And you definitely want to make sure that your butter is at room temperature or softened, because this next process will be so much easier if it is. If it's not, you can put it in the microwave and just put it on like half power and do like 10 or 15 second burst in it until you get it softened up a little bit. But definitely once we get this mixer in there to blend this together, this will go a lot easier if it's softened up. So now we're going to turn this on low and we're going to get this started blending together, and we want to do this for about 4 minutes or until it gets nice and smooth. I've got the sugar and the butter combined together now, and I wanted to show you what that looked like. We've got that nice and smooth and creamy. So we're going to go ahead and make sure you scrape the sides down to get all of that goodness down into the bottom of the bowl. All right, now we're going to move on to the next ingredient, and I've got 4 eggs here, and these are at room temperature. You definitely want all your ingredients at room temperature. It makes everything bake a lot easier that way. I'm going to break them into the separate little bowl here just to make sure I don't get any shells in that, and I'm going to put those in one at a time. And then I'm going to mix that together with my mixer. All right, I've got that one mixed in now. We'll continue with that, adding each egg and mixing it in between. All right, I've got a spatula here. Just want to make sure that I scrape down the sides. I'm just going to give that one last little mix through, and then we'll set this aside and we'll start working on our other ingredients. So now let's start working on our dry ingredients. I've got 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour, or that's 300 grams. I've got 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of ground cinnamon, 1/2 teaspoon of ground nutmeg, 1/2 teaspoon of ground ginger, and 1/4 teaspoon of ground cloves. Now I'm going to take a whisk and whisk that together. Now that I've got that whisk together, I'm going to set that to the side, and I'm going to grab another bowl here, the one that I have the butter in, so I don't have to mess up another bowl. And I've got 1 cup, or that's 240 grams of pumpkin puree. You want to make sure you get pumpkin puree and not pumpkin pie filling. There is a big difference. And I'll put that in the description box below what that is. But that is 1 cup or 240 grams of the pumpkin puree. I've got 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And I've got 1/2 cup, or that's 120 milliliters of buttermilk. Now you can substitute the buttermilk for sour cream. You can use the same amount of sour cream for that. It'll be 1/2 cup of sour cream if you don't have the buttermilk. And I'm just going to add that into that ingredients there. Now I'm going to take the spatula here and I'm just going to combine that all together until that gets mixed together. All right, I've got my butter and my sugar combination in this bowl. Now I'm going to start with my dry ingredients, and I'm going to put just a little bit of that in there. And then I'm going to put a little bit of my pumpkin puree and my buttermilk and vanilla together. I'm going to take the spatula and I'm just going to combine it together. We don't want to overmix this. We just want to put this together until the flour, you don't see any of the flour anymore. So we'll continue alternating with the dry ingredients and your pumpkin until we get it all combined. All right, I've got my ingredients mixed together now, and I've got my pan sprayed. I use the baking spray with the flour in it, but if you don't have that, just take some softened butter and put that all around on the inside of the pan, and then take some flour, and then you'll put the flour in there, and then you'll just move the flour around until you get all the surfaces coated. So if you don't have the spray and you want to do it traditionally with the butter, then just put the butter on all the surfaces, put some all-purpose flour in it, and then move the pan around until all the flour is coated to the surface where the butter is, and you'll be set to go. All right, so now we've got that done. We're going to put our ingredients together now into our bundt pan, and you want to spread that out evenly across. You can see how nice and smooth this is. I'm just going to turn the butt pan around so that I get it evenly distributed out. All right, I've got all of my ingredients now into my butt pan. I'm just going to take the back of the spatula and just kind of smooth that around a little bit so that I get that evenly distributed. And that looks really good. Then I'm going to take the butt pan and I'm just going to tap it on the counter here to make sure that we get all those air pockets out of it. We don't want any air pockets in our pumpkin pound cake. We've got ingredients in our butt pan tapped down, and I've got mine on a baking sheet here. I'm going to put that into that preheated oven, and we're going to bake this for about 45 to 55 minutes. And you want to be able to put a skewer or toothpick in it, and if it comes out clean, you'll know that it's done. Everybody's oven is going to cook a little bit differently, so keep a watch on it, and I'll come back and I'll show you what we do next once this comes out of the oven. Stick with me. I am back, and my pumpkin bundt cake is out of the oven, and we need to let this cool down now for about 15 to 20 minutes before we try to take it out of the pan. You can see here how absolutely delicious this is looking, and it smells incredible. Mine cooked for about 50 minutes, so definitely everybody keep a watch on your ovens because everybody's going to cook a little bit differently. So I'm going to let this cool now for about 15 to 20 minutes before I try to take it out of the pan. If you try removing it before then, it could stick to the sides of it. So this gives an opportunity for the cake to shrink away from the walls a little bit, and that way it'll be a little bit easier to get out. So I'll come back when this is ready to take out of the bundt pan. All right, my timer's gone off now, and I'm going to go ahead and turn my bundt pan over to release the cake out of it. And it's still a little warm, so I'm going to put the rack on the top and get a hold of it. And I'm going to flip it over, and we'll get it to come out of the pan. And we've got a good release on that. I've got a beautiful cake here now, and you can let this cool down and serve it just as it is, or you can make some drizzle that goes on the top of it, and I'm going to show you how to make that here. So I'm going to let this cool down just a little bit more, and I'll show you how to make the frosting that's going to go on the top of it. I've transferred my bundt cake to this cake pan, and I'm going to set this to the side, and let's make our drizzle for the top of it, or the frosting. This is really easy. So I've got 1 cup of my powdered sugar, and I've got a little bit of vanilla here. We're going to put in about 1/2 teaspoon, and we're just going to eyeball that. Now I've got 2 to 3 tablespoons of half and half. If you want to use regular milk, you can use that. I like the richness that the half and half is going to give it. And we just want to add this a little bit at a time. You might not yet use this whole thing, but we'll start out with just a little bit here. And I'm going to take a small whisk and just mix that together until we get it to the consistency that you want it. So it's just going to take you just adding a little bit at a time. And a lot's going to depend on the humidity in your house or in the area that you're in. If you're in a drier area, you might need more of the cream to go in there. If you're in a more humid area, you might not have to have as much because your powdered sugar might have a little bit of moisture in it just from the air. So we'll put just a little bit more in and just keep mixing it around. You can see the top here is getting a little bit more on the thicker side, and the more I mix that, it's going to pull more of that dry in. So I'm going to put just a little bit more of my half and half in. Come back and stir that together. Now the one thing about this, if you get it looser than you like it, you can always come back and add a little bit more of your powdered sugar. And so I'm going to put just a little bit more milk in there. All right, I've got my glaze or my frosting ready to go, and I wanted to show you where mine is at. You can see that it runs not really too runny, but it's still thick on it, and that's what we want because we want that to drizzle down the sides of our bundt cake. So it just all depends. You might not use as much as you got. I've got just a little bit left here in the bottom of this, but I've got it to the consistency where I want it. This is really forgiving. All right, now let's take our drizzle, and I'm going to take this little whisk that I've got, and I'm just going to run that over the middle of the top of the bundt cake here, and you can put as much on it as you like. If you don't have enough of it, you can definitely make some more of your drizzle. It's that easy to make, and I'm just going to continue to go around the top of this and let this fall where it's going to fall. I've got that beautiful drizzle over the top, and it looks really nice how it's run down the sides on that. I've got me a knife here, and let's cut me a piece of this beautiful bundt cake. That looks absolutely incredible on that. We've got some nice crumb on that cake of that. That glaze is through there. So let's take a bite of this. That is nice and moist. That is so good. All of those spices are working together with that pumpkin to make this an incredible pumpkin bundt cake. I'm gonna have me another piece. And some of that glaze that went through the center that's got up under it, and it is absolutely delicious too. Incredible. So good. This is an absolutely delicious cake. I know you're going to try this recipe. And if you've ever made a pumpkin bundt cake before, leave me a comment. I'd love to hear from you. And if you make this one for the first time, definitely leave me a comment. I'd love to hear what you think about this one. If you like this content, maybe you might consider giving me a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. And while you're at it, check out one of these other two videos over here on the side. You might find something else you like. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Again, leave me a comment. I'd love to hear from you. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye-bye now.